Before organic labels and ingredient transparency, there was neon sugar and flavors that felt engineered in a secret lab. The 1980s were not subtle. They were loud, bright, and proudly artificial. We drank glowing green juice and ate cookies with fillings smoother than plastic, and we loved every second of it. This countdown ranks 10 discontinued 1980s snacks by the intensity of their chemical punch. The stranger the aftertaste, the higher they climb. Number 10. Reggie Bar, 1976 through early 1980s. The Reggie Bar felt almost traditional compared to what was coming. Caramel, peanuts, chocolate. On paper it sounded wholesome. In reality it was a sugar missile endorsed by baseball legend Reggie Jackson and sold like a piece of sports history wrapped in foil. The first bite was all sweetness. Not deep-roasted peanut flavor. Not rich cocoa. Just sweetness that hit fast and hard. The caramel had that unmistakable factory gloss. It stretched in perfect strands like it had been engineered for slow-motion commercials. There was nothing subtle about it. Yet compared to the neon chaos of other snacks on this list, it still tasted vaguely connected to actual food. Kids in the early 80s did not analyze flavor profiles. They cared that a sports hero had his own candy bar. That mattered. You could unwrap it in a school hallway and feel like you were holding a piece of Yankee Stadium. The taste came second. And honestly, that hyper-sweet artificial caramel became part of the memory. When it disappeared in the mid-80s, it did not go out in scandal. It simply faded, overshadowed by louder, stranger snacks. Today it feels like the calm before the chemical storm. Sweet, sticky, slightly synthetic, but still grounded in something familiar. Number 9. Nabisco Swiss Cheese Crackers, 1980s. Open the box and the smell hits you first. Sharp, salty, almost electric. Nabisco Swiss cheese crackers did not taste like cheese. They tasted like the idea of cheese filtered through a laboratory. Each cracker had those neat little holes like real Swiss cheese, which made the illusion stronger. But the first crunch told the truth. The flavor rushed in with a powdered intensity that felt amplified. It coated your tongue and refused to leave. It was bold in a way that real dairy never is. They were addictive. That is the word. You would reach for one more because the salt and artificial tang created this loop in your brain. It was not comfort food. It was stimulation, or the kind of snack you demolished while watching Saturday morning cartoons without ever questioning what made it glow so bright orange. Compared to the rest of this countdown, they were still restrained. No neon colors, no syrupy centers. Just a dry blast of processed cheese flavor turned up past normal. When they quietly disappeared in the 1990s, most people barely noticed. But those who remember can still taste that almost metallic sharpness. It was not real cheese. It was engineered intensity. And that was the charm. Number 8. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cereal, 1989. Picture a cereal bowl on a Saturday morning. The TV glows. Cartoons are loud. You pour the box and out tumble bright little nets, tiny life preservers. Then come the marshmallows. Green, orange, purple, white. Colors that don't exist in nature. For Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Cereal didn't try to be subtle. The smell gave it away. Sweet, almost like frosting. The nets snapped apart instantly. The marshmallows dissolved before you even finished chewing. Then the milk changed. Slightly green, slightly cloudy. Not quite right. But you drank it anyway. The flavor wasn't real. Maybe a hint of corn. Maybe vanilla. But buried under pure processed sweetness. Parents bought it for the brand. Kids wanted the spectacle. It wasn't breakfast. It was a cartoon in a bowl. Number 7. Giggles Cookies, 1987. Giggles didn't whisper. They stared at you. Bright cookie faces lined up on the shelf. 2 eye cutouts. A curved smile filled with fudge or peanut butter. They looked playful, friendly, almost too cheerful. But one bite told a different story. The outer cookie was soft, pale, and simple. And slightly sweet, almost neutral. It set you up for something familiar. Then the center took over. The filling pushed outward with a smoothness that felt engineered. Not crumbly, not textured, just a flawless paste that clung to your teeth. The fudge version tasted less like chocolate and more like factory-made frosting. Sweet, glossy, controlled. The peanut butter version felt even stranger. The color was right, but everything else was off. No grain, no oil, just a thick, uniform layer with a slightly rubbery consistency. Sweetness dominated every bite. Giggles weren't about depth, they were about experience. Lunchboxes, cafeteria trays, lining them up and deciding which face to bite first. There was something oddly mischievous about it. On the chemical scale, they rank high because of that filling. It didn't melt like chocolate, but it didn't behave like peanut butter. It stayed the same. Perfect, consistent, artificial, and that's why people still remember them, not as natural, but as impossible to forget. Number 6. Keebler Magic Middles, 1980s. There was something almost suspicious about Magic Middles. They looked harmless. Small, round shortbread cookies dusted in soft crumbs. Simple, familiar. That illusion lasted one bite. The outside was comforting, crumbly, buttery, almost homemade. Then your teeth hit the center, and everything shifted. The filling was too perfect. Not melted, not naturally gooey, just smooth, uniform, precise. The chocolate tasted concentrated, more engineered than rich. The peanut butter was thicker, glossier, slightly elastic, sweeter than anything real. Cut one open and it was flawless. A perfect ring. No gaps, no randomness. That doesn't happen by accident. That's why they stood out. Not loud, not flashy, just controlled. On the chemical scale, Magic Middles rank high because the center felt constructed, not baked. And that's what made them unforgettable. Not natural, but almost impossible. Number 5. Jell-O Pudding Pops, 1981. Pull one from the freezer and it felt different. Heavier than a normal ice pop. Smooth plastic wrapper, that muted brown or cream tone just beneath the surface. Jell-O Pudding Pops promised something familiar, but the experience was anything but. The first bite made that clear. Not icy, not airy. Somewhere in between. Firm at first, then slowly softening into a dense, almost chewy texture. Chocolate arrived sweet and immediate, but underneath was a subtle processed note, a quiet hint of stabilizers doing their job. Aunt Vanilla followed the same path. Smooth, yet slightly powdery. Like pudding mix pushed beyond its natural limits and frozen into structure. It didn't melt quickly. It softened gradually, evenly. That control was intentional. They were designed. Built to resist heat, to hold shape longer than anything natural should. You could eat one in the sun without watching it collapse. It stayed intact, reliable, almost too perfect. And that was the strange part. They felt comforting, familiar, but always slightly engineered. Sweetness calibrated. Texture managed. Not extreme, not artificial in a loud way. Just controlled. Pudding Pops didn't overwhelm you. They quietly showed what happens when dessert is engineered to behave. Number 4. Squeeze It, 1985. You didn't drink Squeeze It, you attacked it. The bottle made that clear from the start. The soft plastic, shaped like a cartoon character, with a tiny twist cap on top. You grabbed it, squeezed, and the liquid shot upward in a thin stream, glowing under sunlight like it didn't belong in a glass. The colors were impossible. Electric red, neon orange, purple that felt almost artificial just to look at. No fruit produces that, and the taste confirmed it instantly. It wasn't just sweet, it was direct. A rush that hit fast and hard. The fruit labels felt symbolic at best. Cherry wasn't cherry. It was candy cherry. Grape leaned into something closer to syrup with a faint, almost medicinal edge. The texture was thin but slick, coating your tongue in a way that lingered. The experience was half physical, half psychological. Squeezing the bottle gave you control. You could sip or flood your mouth in one blast, but that interaction made it feel different, more intense. The artificial edge wasn't hidden, it was the point, and it stayed with you. Your tongue changed color, your lips too. Even afterward, the flavor clung on, a faint film that didn't fade quickly. Squeeze It didn't pretend to be juice. It was liquid candy, and it knew exactly what it was doing. Number 3. Bonkers, 1985. Bonkers looked harmless. Small fruit-flavored bricks wrapped in glossy paper. Neat, almost refined. But the moment you bit into one, that illusion shattered. The outer shell gave a slight resistance. Firm, faintly chalky. Then your teeth broke through, and it burst. A surge of syrup flooded your mouth. Not a gentle fruit note. Not anything close to juice. This was concentrated, pressurized flavor, sweet, sharp, immediate. It didn't unfold. It detonated. That grape tasted like soda reduced into paste. Strawberry hit with a bright, almost electric edge. Every piece delivered an impact that bordered on overwhelming, and the center clung to your teeth, stretching the experience longer than expected. There was tension in every bite. You never knew exactly when it would give way. That brief delay, then the rush, made it feel unpredictable, almost aggressive compared to slower, softer candies. And beneath the sweetness, there was something else, a faint, synthetic tang, the unmistakable signature of something engineered. Whatever kept that syrup sealed inside a solid shell wasn't simple. It felt designed, stabilized, enhanced, controlled. The commercials matched it perfectly. Loud, chaotic, fruit characters smashed flat by flavor. It wasn't subtle, and neither was the candy. On the chemical scale, that bonkers ranks high because it didn't imitate fruit. It intensified it, compressed it, turned it into something louder than real. Number 2, High C Ecto Cooler, 1987. It looked radioactive. That's the only honest way to describe it. Pour High C Ecto Cooler into a clear glass, and it didn't just sit there. It glowed. Not yellow, not green. Something in between. Slime green. The kind of color that feels like it belongs in a lab, not a kitchen. The flavor promised citrus, orange, tangerine, but what hit first was intensity. A sharp, sugary brightness that didn't feel natural. It arrived fast, almost electric, then left behind a tang that lingered just a little too long. Not quite metallic, but close enough to feel engineered. It was never just a drink. It was a product of its moment, tied to Ghostbusters, with Slimer front and center. The kids didn't just want it for the taste. They wanted it because it looked wrong, different, like something slightly forbidden. The sweetness didn't weigh you down. It was thin, easy to gulp, a full glass gone in seconds. And then came the aftertaste, a faint, artificial echo sitting quietly at the back of your mouth. Parents called it juice, but no fruit looks like that. No citrus leaves that kind of impression. And still, people loved it, because it wasn't trying to be natural. It was trying to be memorable. On the scale of artificial flavor, Ecto Cooler stands near the top, not for imitation, but for transformation. It didn't mimic reality. It replaced it. Number 1, PB Max, 1989. This is where the scale tips from artificial to astonishing. PB Max looked innocent. A simple chocolate square with oats and a peanut butter center. And it even hinted at something wholesome. But one bite told a different story. The peanut butter layer was the giveaway. It was thick, dense, intensely sweet, far beyond anything natural. It lacked the slight saltiness or bitterness you expect from real peanuts. Instead, it felt amplified, like peanut butter had been stripped down and rebuilt for maximum impact. The oats added texture, not authenticity. They didn't ground the flavor. They reinforced it. Everything was locked into place by a chocolate coating that snapped cleanly and melted with precision. Nothing messy, nothing accidental. Every element felt controlled. Then the aftertaste lingered, a coating sweetness that stayed long after the bite was gone. Not unpleasant, just unmistakably engineered, the kind of flavor that feels designed rather than grown. And yet, people loved it. Tom PB Max wasn't a failure. It sold well, but it disappeared anyway, reportedly because leadership simply didn't favor peanut butter products. A strange ending for something so popular. That's what makes it number 1. It balanced familiarity with exaggeration. It tasted like peanut butter, but enhanced, stabilized, perfected. A product of its time. Because sometimes the most memorable flavors are the ones that feel just slightly unreal. The 1980s did not chase purity. They chased intensity, bright colors, bigger sweetness. Flavors pushed past natural limits. These snacks tasted like laboratories and lunchboxes colliding in the best possible way. Maybe they were artificial, maybe they were excessive, but they were unforgettable. And somewhere in that neon aftertaste lives a piece of childhood we still miss.